every day, Jane would pray ardently that he would not be elected. She's quoted as saying, "Oh, how I wish he was out of political life. How much better it would be for him on every account." From this we see it wasn't just her own beliefs or her own wishes which made her want him to not be in politics. That one quote, which is really the only quote that remains from her, shows that it wasn't just her wishes. She truly thought it wasn't good for her husband either. A letter from her son, Benny, around this time refers to the fact that he knew his mother was very unhappy at the fact that her husband might end up in the White House, and that he too was disturbed by that idea. Nevertheless, after he was elected president, the family was taking a train together, either to Washington or to some other area shortly before the inauguration. There are differing reports on that fact. Their train car was derailed and it crashed. Only one person died aboard that car, but it was Benjamin, or Benny, their 11-year-old son, and their only remaining child. Franklin saw the horrific accident and tried to cover the boy's body with a cloth before his wife could see, but she too saw the lifeless body of their son, and she was forever changed by this incident, as was Franklin. It was a terrible tragedy which would be horrific for any parent, but it was so much the greater weight on Jane because of her belief that this was divine punishment. Their son was killed because her husband had been elected president. And one can only imagine that, although I don't think Franklin completely believed that himself, he was definitely a Christian, but not as much of a fundamentalist Puritan as his wife. But having been married to a woman who believed that for over 20 years, or for almost 20 years, surely he couldn't be immune to such ideas. I'm sure many a time the thought entered his mind, maybe Jane was right, and this is punishment. And it's no wonder that thus he was prone to very heavy drinking and alcoholism for the rest of his life. For the first 2 years as First Lady, Jane did not go downstairs. She stayed in her room all the time. She was known as the shadow of the White House because she never would go to public events. She was in total mourning. Despite her strong Christian beliefs, at this time she consulted a few mystics and even attempted to use a Ouija board to communicate with her son. And it was around this time that that sort of mysticism and spiritualism and the use of the Ouija board became very popular because of the extremely high death count in the United States. The Civil War soon after, but so many children died, so many people died in the prime of their lives that there became this fascination with communicating with people beyond the grave. And she definitely would write letters to her son, not expecting him to get them necessarily, but just to pour out her feelings and her regret at having not been as good a mother as she thought she should have been. In her stead, her maternal aunt served as the hostess of the White House. Her name was Abigail Ken Means, and she, as well as another close friend of Jane's, acted as the hostess. But there wasn't a whole lot of entertaining going on at the White House because Franklin was also in mourning, and it wasn't that joyous of a time for celebration for either of them. At the New Year's Eve celebration in 1855, Jane made her first public appearance. Even then, she still was very subdued and noticeably grief-stricken, but everyone was extremely sympathetic of how she must be feeling at that point, and very glad to finally see her in a public setting.